This is episode 2 of our Unplugged in Moab camping trip video series. If you haven't yet seen the first video, click on the card above where we boondock on Diamond Fork Road in Utah and hike to the Spanish Fork Hot Springs. In today's video, we pick up as we are departing that campsite and head down to South Canyonlands National Park to Lock Hart Road just outside of the Needles Canyonlands entrance. Let's get started. It is now 9:30 a.m. and you can see the battery is at 38%. So we're taking off and let's see how much energy we get while we're on the road. All right, we're all hooked up and everything's stowed. We're gonna get on the road. We have a long drive ahead of us today. It might be as many as 6 travel hours, which is double our normal preference, but we decided to go for it. And if it doesn't work out, then we will end the day early and stop somewhere in between. You girls excited for our long drive today?
No. Woohoo! I am, but I don't want to drive for so long.
Yeah, it's gonna be long, but that means
cool.
we'll get to funner places faster. Are you ready, James?
Yes!
He doesn't even know what's about to happen. All right, let's get on the road. This first drive segment was 71.2 miles and took us roughly an hour and a half. We were treated to the beautiful fall colors as we descended out of the mountains. We stopped at a gas station in Price because we knew they had a free RV dump station and a place to gas up the truck along our intended route. We are pulling into Price, Utah, and we're going to stop here at this gas station that has a free dump station, and then we'll continue on to Moab. On second thought, there is a whole line of trucks here doing their dumping, and we don't really need to, so we'll just do it when we get to a place down in Moab that also has a free dump spot. But we are going to gas up here. The gas here for 85 is $4.29. The damage ended up being $83.91 today, and that's for 19.51 gallons. It's been about 2 hours since we left our last camp, and you can see the battery's now up to 57%, and so that's how much it got while we were just driving. And don't pay attention to this solar production. We're in the shade under trees right now, so that's not the full capability. We ended up gassing up first, and there was a line of 2 RVs, but now they left, and so I came over and went ahead and we're dumping the black tanks now. So we've got the black tank flush going right there, and this is the only spigot here, so if you needed fresh water you'd have to pull from that, and I know a lot of people don't like that, so maybe they don't have fresh water fill here. They also have air for tires right here on this building, and that is right next to the RV dump station. And this is all on the south side of the gas station, so this Sinclair, the pumps are over there. The next drive segment was 116 miles and took us just over 2 hours to drive to Moab. This is the best place to gas up before we head into the more remote areas with no services south of Moab and into the southern entrance of Canyonlands National Park. Also, we filled up our freshwater tank here since the place in Price didn't have a clean source of fresh water, and it's better anyway to not haul extra weight if you don't have to. We are descending into the Moab Valley right now, and so we've got these beautiful red rock cliffs on either side, and here shortly we'll be crossing the Green River and we'll be in Moab. All right, we are now at this Maverick gas station right here, and over here on the left side is where they have the dump station, which we don't need because we dumped at the place up in Price, Utah. And then across the way over here on the side of this building is where they have the fresh water spigot, and it has a wide splitter on it, but this semi truck is getting towed away by this tow truck, so we had to park next to them. Looks like they have a hose provided, and then they have a sign here saying potable water, so that's great. We're hooked up with our hose, the black hose right here, and we're going over here, and the semi truck is now driving over our hose, which is fine. We're filling up our fresh tanks right now. I have this Camco, I don't remember what it's called, I'll put it in the video description below, but it's a really nice device for interfacing with the hose so that it doesn't fall out easily. Checking out the inside of the trailer, the battery is up to 88% now, and we're getting 1500 watts currently. And then down here we're getting fresh, and it's showing we're at 3/4 now. It was down to 1/3 before, and now it's at 2/3, I mean. So we'll just wait till it's full and then we'll continue on our way. And since we're doing so well with our solar, it looks like we're going to get to 100%. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our water heater, and that is going to use up a good chunk of that energy because the water heater's been off for, well, since yesterday evening. And so it'll be nice and hot when we get to where we're going. in case we want hot water, and we have the energy for it, so might as well. This is really such a beautifully striking backdrop here. Moab has some beautiful scenery. With the 1500 watts that we're getting right now, this is what the sun looks like. It's actually a little bit shrouded in clouds, but we are getting full exposure of that sun that we are getting through the clouds. All right, we have finished up filling our freshwater tank, and we have this gap here because that's where the semi truck was, and we're going to take off and head to our campsite. Hey girls, you excited to get there? We have about another hour and 15 minutes left to go. How's it been so far? You've been doing a great job. All right, let's go. Well, we also gassed up here in Moab, and $62 is what it took to get from Price, Utah down to Moab. And let's see, $4.55 a gallon is what it is for 85 here. We are now passing the Hole in the Rock, which is a tourist trap where some guy blasted a hole in the side of the mountain and built his house here, and now it's just a tourist trap. On our Cortez video, we stopped here and checked it out, so if you go to that video, I'll put a link above, the card above, you can go see what's there. But we're not stopping there today. The next drive segment was 69.5 miles and took us about an hour and a half to drive. I've explored many places all around Utah throughout my entire life, especially since 2001 when I moved to Utah. I've descended over 50 slot canyons in Utah on many canyoneering escapades, which got me out into many really remote areas of Utah, so I'm quite familiar with its beauty. But I had never been to this particular part of Utah before myself. As we drove down into the Indian Creek Canyon on Highway 211, I was shocked at the amazing view. I didn't expect fall colors in this area since the type of trees that change color aren't very prevalent around these parts, but down here there were some, and boy were they gorgeous, especially with the red rock cliffs as the surroundings. Then the view opened up as we climbed out of the canyon, and every direction I looked was a striking rock formation. There are truly remarkable views on this drive, even for Utah. We then turned onto Lock Hart Road, which is a dispersed camping road just outside of the Needles entrance to Canyonlands National Park. There is a campground on this road named Hamburger Rock, but we drove right past that to the amazing boondocking sites among the Hamburger Rock cliffs. The road was in pretty good condition with minimal washboarding, which I appreciated. We saw a couple of possible places to camp, as is always a bit of a point of stress. We don't know what the best available spot will be until we arrive and we see what's available. And if we spend too much time driving around looking for it, not only is that a pain while towing the trailer, but someone might come along and take our top pick while we're still searching. But that's just the nature of this type of camping, and luckily most of these sites are somewhat easy to evaluate from the main road. Sometimes I pull out my drone and fly it to more quickly and accurately scout around the area, but that takes time, and the kids are grumpy if we park the truck for too long and don't let them get out to explore. Luckily, we saw a spot and turned around, and it was still available when we came back. I came up here to this spot first just to check it out on foot, make sure I don't get stuck. There's a nice fire pit there, and it's a pretty cool backdrop. And the road is a little bit bumpy coming in with rocks and such, but it actually looks like a great option, so we're gonna go for it. Turns out the drive-in was no problem at all. There was one bush near the entrance that we came close to brushing, but I could have moved over more on the other side. And when we got to the campsite, there was a good amount of room to maneuver the trailer into place. The site ended up exceeding my expectations from what I could see from the road, and as soon as we finished moving the vehicles around, we started exploring the area right away. This is the type of campsite that I find similar to Goblin Valley, where I can't believe it hasn't yet been taken over by the government to control and start charging fees in order to experience it. The beauty is even more visible from the drone, and as you can see, there were people scattered across the desert along this road, but we could only see a couple of them from our campsite, and we couldn't hear anybody, which is far better of an experience than virtually any campground I've ever been to. When we arrived, the sun was close to setting, so we were able to see the strangely shaped shadows from the rock formations all around us, which once again is far more visible from the air. We were here in October, so you can judge the number of people camping here based on that time of year, which for a hot desert area is prime time. I imagine there are far fewer people here in the heat of the summer. This looks like it's going to be a really fun spot. It's about the same as Goblin Valley in the aesthetic of the area, which Goblin Valley is very striking and beautiful. What are you doing? Look at this stunning view. And we have just in the distant peaks, just such an amazing backdrop. And there happens to be a thunderstorm going through right there, right now. What do you think, Lucy?
About what?
This view.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
There's already moving too.
Oh, I just heard a little thunder. We have now set up the trailer. Everything is ready to go. And I'm looking here at the electrical system, and we did end up getting to 100% on the battery. And right now it is 4:30 p.m. And so the solar that's coming in is just whatever is needed by the systems on board immediately now. And so, yeah, we found a really beautiful spot. The kids are already out exploring. You can see them, hopefully you can see them, they're up right there. All three girls. James is right here, chilling like a villain. Hey, James. And I'm going to show you our setup here. This place came courtesy with a fire pit, which is cool. We may or may not use that. And obviously a stunning backdrop. Then we have our trailer here, and we've leveled it up and stabilizers are down. And over here on this side, we ended up adding some 2x6s just because it was almost close to being perfectly level with those chocks that we have, but not quite. So with some wood, it brought it up high enough. And then over here, I have the Starlink plugged in to the router that's in that compartment, and then the wire coming out. And the Starlink dish is over here, and you can see it is flat right now, so that means it's working but not at full speed, and it's probably going to rotate and then point toward the northern sky, which is in that direction. We have some neighbors that we can see right there, and that spot is actually the one that I was eyeing taking on Google Satellite View before we came, but they were already there, so we found this spot, and this spot's pretty awesome too. So now let's go see what the view looks like from the girls' perspective. Hey, Lucy. Okay, tell me, girls, what do you think? Is this better than Goblin Valley or the same as Goblin Valley?
Same.
Yeah, I agree. It's different, but similar and awesome.
Dad, can we explore somewhere else?
Yeah, let's just keep exploring. We have this really cool alcove here to go explore. And then up this way, there's an even cooler amphitheater right there that's ours to explore. And then over this way, we have a slick rock wall. If I climb up this, we can see some neighbors. I bet we won't even hear any of them because we have our own section of mountain over here where there isn't anybody. I must say this backdrop is very stunning, and this rivals Goblin Valley, where you have the beautiful red rock and rock formations. This is a little different, but it's very similar actually, and equally awesome. This is that cool amphitheater. Really cool. All to ourselves too. This isn't like a crowded area with a parking lot at the entrance where a bunch of people come and are crowding together on the same hike. This is a exclusive camp spot. What a cool place. So look at this. Look at the view behind the girls. This terrain just goes on and on and on. So cool. And here is the trailer from yet another angle. Where are we, girls?
I want to go over there.
Right, but where are we now?
On a rock. Yeah, a high rock.
On a high rock, yeah.
First we were like over there.
Right.
And now
So
we're here.
we started out exploring.
Right over there.
Right over there, and then we went out on that rocky outcropping right there. And that our neighbors are on the other side of that. We have some other neighbors farther away. And that's the road we came in on. And now we are on this rock that's up above the trailers. And what do you think of this view, girls?
I love it.
I love it too.
But
And then behind us we
can
have
see so
even
far
more
away.
rock formations that goes for a long way. Right now it is 4:58 p.m. So basically 5 p.m. And you can see the shadows are getting long. Hi, James. There he is.
James!
James. Oh, there he's looking at us. You girls are so loud. Look at you girls. What did you find?
Hot tubs.
Hot tubs.
Hot tubs.
Those are dry hot tubs. Right now it is 5:17 p.m. and that's where the sun is in the sky. And panning over this way, you can see the shadows are now starting to hit where we're camping. And if you look at the side of the trailer, the shadows are starting to cover the solar panels themselves, barely, just in that front right corner. The back still is getting a little bit of sun, but not much. So basically that's when the solar production ends in this particular spot. Okay girls, wave your arms.
That doesn't look like a mouse.
That is awesome. Hey girls, what are you eating for dinner?
Tomato soup and bread.
Yeah.
Tomato soup and bread with bacon bits.
We had a nice relaxing evening, eating dinner and hanging out around the campsite. The kids did lots of digging in the dirt as they do at all of our campsites, making dirt cookies or other creations of their imaginations.
We were making dirt cookies by spitting into the dirt. We would cover the spit with dirt, and then we would let it sit for a while. After that, we got them out with a shovel, and then we put them into the sifter. The dry dirt fell out of the sifter, and we had a cookie.
I flew the drone, getting the awesome aerials I've already shown you, and then I was able to get some work done on my laptop thanks to Starlink for internet and the solar panels powering the Starlink dish and charging my laptop battery. Considering we just dumped and filled our water tanks today, we could have stayed here for a solid week and been fine since the water and food is our primary limitation typically. This time of year, the solar production is still more than enough to supply all of our miscellaneous needs as well as heating or cooling with the heat pump mini split. I have found that the transition point where solar gets too weak to supply the heating demands of cold weather begins in November and is for sure too weak in December and January. Then February is the next transition month, and by March we can easily camp again without any electrical constraint. We have only camped a small handful of nights in the winter and usually one night at a time, and our stored energy in the batteries is enough. But if we did any extended camping in the winter, we'd almost most certainly have to bring a generator on that trip to supplement the minimal solar energy production. I've talked more about the winter solstice energy production in a past video, which I will link to in a card above if you're interested. It is now 10:09 p.m. and the battery's at 83%. For now, we're just leaving the mini split off. It is 71 degrees inside and 57 outside. This is the Victron Monitoring Portal for that day of the trip, and it shows the electrical system of the trailer. This blue line is the state of charge of the battery bank. The red columns is the energy consumption from the AC electricity out of the inverters, and then the orange columns are the solar production. So we began the day here at 58% on the battery, and there was a little bit of consumption throughout the night. We have a noisemaker that we run all night for the kids to not hear noises outside of the trailer as an example. And then also I think around here is when I turned on the mini split to keep the trailer warmer than it was, so that's where this power consumption jumped up a little bit. And then the battery percentage bottomed out at 37%. And then around then is when the solar production started to ramp up, and then also I turned off the inverters, and that's why the red bars completely disappear for this section while we're driving. So the bulk of the energy production throughout the day was actually right here in this section of time while we were driving. And then this is when we were in Moab, and I turned on the water heater and turned on the inverters, and that's where this consumption spike jumped up as it turned on and warmed up the water heater primarily. And that wasn't quite enough though. We still completely filled up the battery, which I generally try to avoid just because I want to be able to see how much solar the solar panels can produce in a day. But the solar panels were fully charged for about 2 hours here, and that's closer to the end of the solar production part of the day anyway, so we probably didn't miss out on too much energy. But you can see that solar graph, this bar dropped off pretty dramatically, and that's because the battery filled up. And then this is around when we made dinner. And so there was a little bit of a spike there of electrical consumption, but we really didn't use too much electricity. And then there's a little bit of standby throughout the rest of the evening. This spike here was probably the water heater cycling on to warm up the water. and then we ended the day at 76% on the battery. And so our consumption for the whole day ended up being 4.8 kilowatt hours, and our solar production was 9.1, and that could have been higher if the battery had not fully charged, but my guess is it probably just would have been in the mid 9.5 or so kilowatt hours of solar production for the whole day. And this is what a day looks like living in the trailer while it's fully solar powered. But I have found that each day is just subtly different in all kinds of ways. It's kind of like a fingerprint. No two of them are exactly the same. In our next video, after taking care of some household chores, we spend the rest of the day exploring the southern end of Canyonlands National Park, including the visitor center and going on some hikes. Subscribe to get automatically notified when our next video publishes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.